looks like we are live according to the YouTubes. So, first of all, I want to start off because I just got this in the mail. Don't know what it is. It's the Gundam USA Gundam Store monthly membership random kit of the month kind of thing. So let's see what they sent this month, because that will be going on the docket of things to build going forward. And oh crap, that's a brand new kit. So they have decided to send the IBO 144 Gundam Marchosius. Marchosius, I don't know how you pronounce that. I've heard some mixed stuff about this kit, mostly when it comes to strength of articulation and the arms and the like blade things that come out over here. But overall, it's a pretty cool looking kit at the end of the day. If you can see that. I mean, it's got some pretty neat looking features there. So, yeah, that's going on the backlog for things to build in upcoming sessions. So, thanks for that, USA Gundam Store. So, let's see what the G40 has to offer today. So, as stated in the description of the video, this kit is pretty interesting in how polarizing its design has been inside the community. There's not a really good picture of it on the box that kind of outlines that or exemplifies it, but we'll get into it as we build it. But the general consensus that I've heard, or that I've read, I should say, is that it looks soft or pudgy, I guess. It's got a very rounded design, especially in the torso, as opposed to the more classic old style, squared off kind of Gundam design that you'd get from, you know, sticking closer to the anime. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Some people do, some people don't. Whatever, I don't care. I've never been a huge fan of the RX-78-2 Gundam just in general. Not that I have anything necessarily against it. I just never really watched the original show all that much. I don't have much in the way of nostalgia for it. If anything, my nostalgia is more for the new Gundam, because one of the first things I ever watched in Gundam was Charged Counterattack. And then also, of course, the suits from Gundam Wing, which is how a lot of people in the U.S. got into Gundam a long time ago. So, yeah. So I don't really care about whether or not this thing is faithful to the original or whatever. Though this is cool. I did not know this came with this little booklet. Oh, there's a nice picture of what we're going to be building here. Here's this guy right here. As you can see, it's got a very sort of rounded look up here on the cockpit area and the chest. Sort of the same goes down here on the legs, which is much different than the very squared off look that you get in more of a classic sort of Gundam look. Nice little set of looks like introductions and design notes here. Nice little design sketches. Very cool. More pre-designed sketches. Yeah, so this is a pretty good example. So this is one of the probably initial designs, I'm guessing, where it was a little bit more faithful. You got a little bit more square body going on here, and then as these different design types evolved, it sort of rounded out with this version. Again, I think it's a really cool design. I don't really care that much about the overall mechanics of the whole thing. You know, the design of it. I don't care about the controversy is the point. I do like the design of the shield where the cross there is sort of separated out. We'll see if that actually comes through in the kit. Although I think it does. I saw it as we were opening up the other parts of it. I'm mostly excited just to get my hands on this articulation of this kit, see some of the stuff it can do. Yeah, this is the first I've ever seen a one of these kits come with this sort of little booklet, which I guess is a 40th anniversary kind of thing. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I will set that aside and keep that as a keepsake for later when I am, you know, working through, and when I have more time to go through and read it, I guess. Got some stickers here. You can go either yellow or pink on the eyes, it looks like. We're definitely going to have a sticker for that crotch V. It's an HG kit. It's not exactly going to always be the most color accurate when it comes to things like that, but we'll see how it plays out. I do like the crotch V on most of these older style Gundams, but if it's not molded in, I'm not all that concerned about it. It's not going to make or break this kit for me. Start separating these things out. There's not a lot of runners with this kit, I just noticed. So, I mean, I probably should have noticed earlier when I was, taking them out, but I wasn't paying attention because I was looking at just the booklet and the other little booklet we got there. But yeah, only 4 or 5 runners if you count the hands runner here. So, looks like this is going to be either a pretty quick build or a fairly intricate build. But here's a lot of the joint pieces here that we're going to be working with. It looks like, and no polycaps. That's very important. I do like that. That's gonna make my heart happy. It means that the build should be solid once you get it into a pose, and it'll stay that way for a while, as opposed to polycap builds, which tend to loosen up over time. So, yeah, fantastic. Still got a bit of schmutz on the work center here from where I was building last night. Nice. Instruction booklet is pretty well designed. That is one thing that I've always kind of had a problem with, is how the instruction booklets are designed for some of these, the way they fold out. Like, not that they do fold out or, that they fold or any of that, because, I mean, you get into some of the bigger builds, like the perfect grades I'm going to be working on here in a week or so, but more along the lines of how they fold out. They don't fold out booklet style, but, oh, wow. Yeah, okay, this is just getting into the body. The head is, it's got this nice little pink mohawk strip down there, which I'm guessing is what that sticker is for. Huh. Now that's actually fairly interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a Gundam that has a big pink stripe on its head. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see how this plays out. So let's go ahead and get into it. Yeah, all right. This is, despite the few number of runners, I think this will be an interesting build. I think it'll be fun. If I can find the pieces on the runners. There we are. So usually most of these builds are pretty similar So I just kind of gloss over and do things pretty quickly. But with this guy, it looks like that is not going to be the case. I mean, you can already tell by looking at these instructions, if you can see them very well. I tried to move the camera in a bit closer for some of the work here. I can move it in a little bit more, but you can see that through here, this is just the torso joint, which ends up being this conglomeration of pipes here, which is pretty interesting. So I don't want to rush this build. I want to make sure I take my time and work through it the way it's supposed to be done and not end up missing something or screwing something up, because it is fairly intricate looking. But now the question is, do I want to go pink or yellow eyes? I think classic is yellow, and they changed it to pink for this this version. So let's go with pink. Let's respect what the designers wanted for this particular kit. Oof. That is a fairly fragile feeling sticker. Went on smooth enough, though. Alright, ow. Oh, wait. Apparently I'm doing that in the wrong order. I see what they did here. Oh, that's really cool how that is separated out. I am suddenly becoming a very big fan of this build altogether. I mean, would I want every HD to be like this? Probably not. That'd probably get a little tedious. Also, sacrifices clearly have been made in the design department for the sake of the articulation that comes with this kit, but man, there's so much cool going on in this kit already. I'm hyped for it. Just started building it, already hype. Especially after last night's build. Oh my god. If I never have to put together another one of those style of kits again, I'll be happy. They were, for those of you who didn't see, that's the HG new Xeon Gundam from Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise. Cool concept, but man, that kit's execution was just so poor. So poor overall. The only thing I think that I've been more disappointed with so far out of the Build Divers line was the Jigen Blastmaster. And that one, I didn't record the build of that one. Basically, I used it for practice on a few things to see how I'd like, some different building techniques. But man, it had so much potential, which I guess maybe is just me because I'm a huge fan of the design of the Double X Gundam, which it's based on. And I was kind of hoping that some of that would shine through in the way that kit was built. But yes, it had the Double X cannons, but they were just tacked on. They weren't anywhere near being well executed, I guess you could say. In fact, let's zoom in a little here so that you guys can see a little bit better of what's going on here with this. helped or not. But there's our head there. Already looking pretty awesome. Can you see it better over here, maybe? That's going to be a little bit better of a view. The fact that the red and the black are separated out is pretty awesome. Reset the zoom here, or the focus. It might be kind of hard to tell from the light on the camera, but this is, or the light in the room and the color on the camera, I should say. But this is not your typical bright Gundam white. This is a much more muted, slightly tannish. It's very, very light tan white. Interesting. Again, there's a lot of choices that were made with this, with the design of this kit that some people online were not huge fans of. But man, I honestly think that there's not a lot that people online wouldn't get upset about these days. So I guess the short answer there is, who cares? Who cares indeed? People are going to be upset. Let them be upset. I mean, people were upset about the announcement of the Wing Gundam custom EW version Ver. Really, it's not. People wasting their energy being upset about something like that. It's just not even worth it. Like, end of the day, it's not even close to being worth it. So my advice to people in general is just, pull a Disney. Let it go. Oh, that is nice. It's actually got that is pretty swanky. So, yeah, again, you can probably not see it very well. I'll have to change the zoom over here again. But yeah, you can see that the Vulcans on the head there are actually colored through, as well as the side vents of the head. So got some nice color correctness going on there. Oh, can we get back in focus? Yeah, that's probably about as good a focus as we're going to get. And this is where that strip comes in. Again, interesting design choice. Not sure what was up with that. I'd have to go through and see if that's called out in the booklet why they decided to give the RX-78-2 a pink mohawk. There are many camps of people out there who will argue about the putting the little safety nubs on the backs of the V-fins for Gundam kits. Most of the time I don't care. That one just looked awkward. I didn't even have it on yet, and I could already tell it was going to look awkward. So just nipped that off to make the V-fin a little bit more, a little spikier looking. I think that's supposed to go on either side of that, maybe? And there we have a nice little G40 head. Very cool so far. I approve. Not that anybody cares about my approval, but I do in fact approve. Let's see. Now we're moving on to the body. So this is where all of the articulation starts to come in, where we're going to have to make sure we pay attention to how all of these pieces fit together. Because the last thing we want is to end up screwing up the build of this and not having a Gundam that's as articulated as he's supposed to be. Alright. So that goes like that. Lots of little ball joints here in this torso. Pop that in. Now the way these connect is via those other two side parts. All right, let's find those. Oh. One of the things about this kit, though, is that it is clearly going to be a very symmetrical kit. Not that I'm against that. I will say that I do love me some asymmetrical kits on occasion, but that does not mean that they are always having to be symmetrical. Alright, so that goes there. And then this one goes like that. That's an interesting joint. It's got a lot of movement in it. That is very interesting. Okay, well, let's see how this continues to work out, because this is the lower abdomen joint. Again, I'm trying to resist my natural temptation to work a little bit ahead of the instructions on this. But this is a fairly intricate kit, and the last thing I want to do, as I've said multiple times, is end up somehow screwing this up. So Hmm. So many pieces just going into the waste of this thing. Mind you, I am not complaining. Though I do think I'm going to have to sand these after they're together to get the nub marks gone and make the two pieces even. Because I actually accidentally sanded a little bit too much on these and gave it a little dimple. So hopefully that's not going to be overly noticeable once it's all together, but I do feel kind of bad about that. There we go. Got that together. Now let's see what we can do about these nub marks here. Hmm. Man, that discoloration where that nub mark is goes pretty deep into the plastic there. Interesting. I mean, it's not as bad as having a big old bright white nub mark there, but I can still see a slight bit of darker coloration where the plastic was clearly thicker on the runner than it was once you cut it off. I mean, if I were painting this, it's definitely smooth enough to paint, which is not the problem. It's just kind of, I don't know. That's kind of a weird situation there on that one. I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's anybody's ever going to notice it, but I noticed it, and that matters to me. Let's get some of these tools out of the way that I'm not using. Mm-hmm. Already seeing these arm joints, shoulder joints here being pretty interesting. Moving on to the upper part of the torso here. Again, this is not your classic dark blue Gundam color. This is far more of a light blue. Gives it a very interesting design here, very interesting shade of blue. So one of the things I think you can see that makes this a little bit different than most kits is instead of having a squarish or a taper towards the bottom design for the upper torso, this is going to have a taper out towards the bottom as opposed to a taper in towards the bottom, taper towards the top, I guess, design, so that it's wider at the bottom of the top of the torso than it is at the top of the torso or the shoulders. So interesting choice there. Again, I'm not against it. I think it's a cool design thing. When it comes to people who are purists, of course they're gonna not be super thrilled about it, but again, who cares? There are about 47,000 versions of the RX-78-2 in model kit form that they can go and put together whenever they want, that fit the aesthetics of what they're looking for and do not, there's no problems with it. Nobody's telling anybody they can't put together those versions of the kit, or you can't do the origin, or you have to do this one. No, that's not being said. I mean, I guess the argument could be made that if they're going to do this special anniversary edition kit, or with the high amount of articulation and all of that, it should have been more classically designed so that fans of the series could have a kit that is really cool to pose with their other figures and all that. And there's a point there, I guess, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's the HD, the origin, either out already or coming out soon, that is exceptionally posable as well. There's the Beyond Global or whatever that's coming out soon that's also going to be pretty posable, and so there are definitely options for people who are purists to get their pure on. It just doesn't happen to be with this particular kit. So again, that controversy does not faze me. I don't even think it's technically a controversy, in my opinion. It's just people complaining because they didn't get exactly what they felt they wanted. And here we go, getting into more of the chest area, and you can definitely start to see that much more rounded design starting to come out in the upper chest area here. I was actually out shopping today, and I should have reminded myself while I was out to pick up some canned air, and I totally didn't. And now I'm regretting it as I sit here and try to get the eraser shavings and sanding shavings and all off of my kit. But that's entirely my fault. That's me not paying attention to what I was doing while I was out. I don't know why they called this runner B1. Usually if there's like a numbered runner, it's because there's a second numbered runner that's either a mirror of it or something. I mean, there's B2, but B2 has nothing to do with B1. It's just arms. So, who knows? Decisions were made, I suppose. All right. All right, so that goes there. Go a little bit further. There we go. And there's our there's that. Let's put the head on, see what it looks like together. And even that neck is a complicated joint. Oh, I like those aesthetics. It's definitely not going for what one might call realism, given the way you can see those neck joints in there. But I mean, this is meant to be posable. It's not meant to be like super 100%. This is what the thing would look like in real life. I mean, if you want that, that's what literally what the real grade is for. But yeah, that is I am digging that neck. I mean, I'm actually really enjoying the overall aesthetics of this kit, to be fair. Everything about it so far has been super fun. I think that eraser's about had it. Let's get a new eraser in here. All right, so that's top of the torso done. Now we have to do the backpack. So we'll flip him over on his front. Concentrate on this backpack area. For once, I was smart. I didn't panel line this area because I had a sneaking suspicion that this was going to end up being completely covered by this here backpack section. So that's me using my brain. Using the old noggin here. All right, go to part. And even these little beam saber holding arms are very intricately done. Oof. For a high grade kit, this thing is just amazing. Granted, I don't know if it's fair to call this a high grade. High grade has implications, I suppose you could say. I mean, high grades have been getting better. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the new Infinite Justice that's coming out here in the U.S. soon looks amazing, and the Zaku 2.0, the Origin that I put together was really really cool, and there have been a fair number of other high grade kits that have come out over the last couple of years that have just really really been superb. So I think high grades are getting better in general. But on the flip side, this thing it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different animal, I guess you could say, from any other high grade that I've ever worked on. So from just the way the articulation is to the amount of effort put into all of the different various parts. I mean, just even with this this backpack piece that I'm building here is, I mean, the way these little thrusters are designed so that they have the little flaps that move and everything there. Like that is not what you would get in a standard high grade. Like even the newer versions of high grades. So I think honestly, this should just be called out as being its own. I don't know if it would be its own grade or if it's just not even considered a graded kit, as it were, just because of the sheer amount of differences between it and any other type of graded kit. It's a special flower. And so far, I'm digging it very much so. Yeah, so check that out. I mean, 2 points of articulation in the thrusters. Like, this is beyond what one would ever expect from anything close to a normal high grade. I mean, some of the articulation on this thing, I don't even think belongs in the real grade category, quite frankly. So, there's that as well. Oh, man. Nice little backpack there, and now we get the beam sabers attached there. All right. Oh, looking at the wrong thing. No wonder that didn't look even close to right. Haha. It helps to find the piece you're looking for if you look at the right runner. That is a top tier Gunpla building tip for me to you. Pay attention to what runner you're supposed to be looking at. That's how the experts do it. I know there's that temptation there when you're first starting out to think you know everything and not have to pay attention to the runners and just, grab whatever piece you want. But nope. Take it from a long-time Gunpla builder here. Your life is a lot easier if you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, now when you get into customization, you can ignore all the runners you want because you probably have a very specific plan in mind. Also, another pro Gunpla tip here. Round pieces that need to be panel lined are the worst. Unless you're using the panel line wash, which I have literally sitting right over here to my right. But I'm not in the mood to sit around and wait and do cleanup later. So we're going to do it with the panel line markers and an eraser. Ooh, I do like that these can flip up. Because the default for the RX-78 is to have those guys pointed up like so. But I'm digging on the flipping down to be a little bit more compact there. Gives it a really cool vibe. Got to be careful with them though, because I could see doing that too many times, just popping these little rotating arms off. Look how far those thrusters go. That is fantastic. Good. That's why I would argue that this is in a class all its own when it comes to grading. All right, looks like we're working on arms now. And I guess that's just the upper arm we're working on here. Interesting. Okay, so let's do this one piece at a time, make sure I get it on here correctly. Oh, that's pretty tight. I like that. And then that goes down on top of there, like so. And that's the start of our right arm. Fantastic. Not upset about that in the least. It's easy, straightforward, not a lot of guff. Just a rod with some pieces stuck around it, giving it some nice ability to turn in a couple places there. Now we're getting into the good old ball bearing shoulders here. So the shoulder armor, it appears, is not a separate piece from the actual shoulder joint itself. And that's, given everything else about this kit so far, I'd say that's an interesting way to do it. Usually you get your shoulder armor as a sort of its own deal going on, if you want more articulation. But no, apparently on this one the articulation is going to be in how the shoulder armor connects to the upper arm, as opposed to the shoulder armor and the upper arm being separate pieces. If you go back and look at the build I did yesterday, the new Xeon Gundam, you'll see what I'm talking about when it comes to shoulder armor that's not actually part of the rest of the arm. It's just sort of a flap that goes on there and attaches between the shoulder and the arm itself. So this is going to be a little side thruster bit. It's going to be its own bit of articulation. Oh, I see how that's going to work. That's clever. That is clever indeed. So if that flips up, then you can keep the shoulder down, and then the arm would be able to rotate all the way up through it, giving you fairly decent range of motion. And then with the extra added movement of the ball joint itself at the actual shoulder, that's gonna be one heck of a reach. Approved. Look at that elbow. That is a crazy amount of bend in that elbow already. Alrighty, let's see here. Oof. This plastic is just phenomenal to work with. Cuts very easily, cleans up real easy. Like even that red, despite the fact that I was complaining about the dark spots where the plastic is clearly thicker around where it joins the runner, cleans up really nicely. But this is actually a phenomenal. Like this is, again, I know I keep going on about how unique this build is, and I can't actually say that enough. But the way that this is this forearm attaches to below the elbow joint, which actually gives it a little bit of side to side there for the articulation. Like, that's actually just, like, that's really, really cool. I mean, if I had any complaint, it feels a little loose. But I guess we'll end up seeing whether or not it actually, like, how loose it ends up being in practice. But the fact that it even does that is just intense, because it gives you just that little bit of extra wiggle to get that really cool pose you want out of that arm. And welcome to me noticing things I needed to clean up earlier and didn't. It's not as noticeable on this plastic, but I feel bad that I didn't clean that up earlier. It's not fantastic by a long shot. All right. And since this is the right arm, and we know that the RX-78-2, not a southpaw, he is in fact going to get the shooty hand. So I'm fairly certain. I'm just going to leave that a little bit loose because I'm pretty certain I'm going to have to take that apart to actually get the gun into the hand later. Go ahead, pop that on. Oh, that is just nuts how much reach you get on that. This kit is so good. I mean, that's entirely the point, but it is just overall intensely well designed. Oof. Yeah, the engineering on this kit is beyond good. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, I'm not even halfway through with getting it all put together yet, and I'm already just sort of blown away with how well this is actually engineered. know I said earlier that this white is kind of a tannish white. Frankly, the more I look at it, the more I start to think it looks a lot more like a greenish color. It could be the lights that I'm under. It's very possible that it's these studio lights, but it feels like it has a very light greenish tinge to it. Yeah, sorry if things got a bit quiet here, folks. Just working on getting these arms together. And I pretty much said what I had to say about the other arm. I mean, it is a fantastic bit of engineering. I mean, again, you're sacrificing the that classic RX-78 design, I suppose you could say. But the fact that you're gaining just this much articulation and, like, let's face it, the absolute cool factor is more than worth it. I still can't get over how this attaches. That is, I think so far, the coolest thing that I've seen in this kit. And there's been a lot of cool things going on with this kit so far. I know it's kind of hard to articulate exactly what that means if you're not somebody who puts these together frequently, or you've never really been into Gunpla or anything like that. It's just so refreshing to see a build like this. I think I don't even know his actual name, but the guy who runs the Mecha Gaikotsu channel on YouTube said it best, where occasionally you run into second leg syndrome, where you've just been building kits for so long that you can basically not even have to look at the instructions and already know pretty much exactly how it's going to go together and what pieces you're going to need and roughly what the whole entirety of the build is going to look like. And by the time you get to that second leg, after going through the torso and two arms and the head and all of that, everything just kind of feels samey. It is one of the main reasons why, when I am looking for new kits to put together, one of the main things that I prioritize when making my selections, when looking at what to build, is whether or not the build is going to be interesting. I mean, of course, I'm also looking at, well, do I actually care about the aesthetics of the kit? Do I care about the character? Do I care about the overall design of, did I even like that anime or that manga or whatever piece of media that this particular kit would have come from? Like, those all factor into it. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to, like, is it a kit that I want to put together? Like, does it look interesting? There are way too many kits out there that just are not interesting to put together. I guess it's one of the reasons why I kind of shy away from some of the seed designs and, a few of the other more classic style shows. Like, they're just, some of them are cool designs. Overall, they just feel very samey, though. Seed in particular is bad about that, I suppose. I'm not going to sit here and just continue to bash on Gundam Seed. It's a good enough show for what it is. Not my favorite. And I guess it's one of the interesting reasons why, when I'm looking at, say, Gundam O, that by far the more interesting designs out of that are not the Exia to me. I don't really care for the Exia that much. But, you look at the Kyrios, the Dynamiz, the Virtue, the Thrones, like, a lot of the other mobile suits in there have some pretty unique designs. And the actual Exia itself just doesn't do anything for me. So I'm really hoping, given that they've already released the Master Grade Kyrios and the Master Grade Dynamiz, that we'll actually see a real Master Grade Virtue at Natalie Gundam. That remains to be seen if that'll actually happen. They haven't announced anything yet, but it feels like that's definitely where they're going to go with that. is having the full lineup, which would be very, very nice. Um, I'm a huge fan of those designs. I had the no grade version of the Virtue and the Dynamez. I broke my Dynamez; it fell off my shelf. Broke one of the shoulder armors off, and so I just got rid of the kit. Was not a big fan of it, just because it was. I love the Dynamez, but that kit in particular was not very great. I still have the Virtue. It's one of the first kits I ever put together. It's good. It's not fantastic. I would much rather have a full-on master grade version of the Virtue. And if they could do one where you can separate the Natalie without actually having to like go find where you put the hair after you took it together, then that would be key. So, looks like we're moving on to the feet now. Let's see. Let's keep my feet separate because I'm going to build 2 of them at a time, it looks like. Which I am beyond okay with. Da, 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 30, 34. I mean, on the topic of interestingly designed mobile suits, I did just recently also get in the Master Grade Turn X Gundam. I've got the high grade Dendrobium on the way, should be arriving tomorrow. And I mean, if you want to talk about a kit that's hard to fall into, I mean, it's high grade. I guess it fits the high grade from what I've seen of reviews of it and images and everything. The actual mobile suit itself that comes with it is definitely high grade. It's probably scale wise one of the biggest model kits they've done. I guess if you look at it from that perspective, the overall biggest would likely be one of the Zeongs. But next up would be the Dendrobium, because the 144 one is just a massive, massive kit from it's just huge, and I'm really looking forward to putting it together. Those kits are by far, or those mecha designs are by far some of my favorite. Not my absolute favorite, but I mean, I've been waiting for a long time to get a remaster version or a 2.0 version of the GP02 because, I mean, it's been long enough that we have not ever... The old Master Grade is just terrible. I tried putting it together a while back. Parts never lined up. It was just a bad build. It just made me feel bad overall. And I think it's beyond time that we got a proper 2.0 of the GPO2. But I've got the perfect grade GPO1 downstairs. I really loved that kit. The fact that it came with 2 core boosters that you could swap out when you did the parts swap on it for the full Vernier version. Like that is a fantastic build. I was super happy with it at the time that I did it. But yeah, we need I got the 04 RE100 sitting behind me over there that needs to get put together at some point. And yeah, the only thing that's missing is a decent GPO2. So yeah, Bandai, get on it. Ah, did I put that on backwards? I think I did. Yeah, pretty sure I put that on backwards. Oops. Oh well. There. No harm, no foul. Kind of wished we'd get a high grade version of the Thrones from Gundam 00, but I don't think that'll ever happen. That is a pipe dream. So I might just have to grab the HG versions of those kits. I know they weren't a really big part of the show, but they were interesting designs that they had for them nonetheless. So I'm definitely on board with having them. A lot of the grunt suits from 00 weren't a big fan of. The GNXs, I guess, were pretty cool, but were they Tyrans or something? I can't remember exactly what they're called. I was not super enamored with those. Interesting little joint here in the foot. We'll see where that ends up taking us. Doesn't have a whole lot of movement there, but there's a little bit, and that might be important. go. Got a couple of heels. All right. And no, I'm not going to panel line the bottom of these feet. The fact that these feet are that fantastically detailed is great, but I have an outstanding no panel lining bottoms of feet policy, unless, of course, those feet are essential to the operation of the mobile suit's gimmick, like if it folds up and turns into some sort of weird beam cannon or the like, then sure, I'll panel line that because, you know, you're actually going to display it with people seeing the feet. Overall, though, not a big foot person when it comes to panel lining. But speaking of feet, when it comes to Gundams, I am actually very interested in picking up the high resolution God Gundam from G Gundam. One of the things that I really like about it, or that I heard about it that I really like, I should say, is the fact that the feet actually are rubberized on the bottom to help with it slipping around and holding poses, which I think is just a fantastic idea. Then again, I mean, that mobile suit is designed for, you know, straight up martial arts fighting, which is silly enough. But I'm not going to go into all of the reasons I don't think G Gundam should count as Gundam, but it still has some interesting stuff going on, and that particular, the high resolution God Gundam, is still pretty cool. Even if the overall concept of G Gundam as a thing is, you know, pretty lame and not all that cool at all. At least not as far as I care. Again, I just can't stress enough how fantastic the plastic in this kit is. Like, I don't know if this is their new plastic, like, overall going forward, or if we're just going to see it for this one kit, or if this is like their premium style plastic for now. But man, it is just pleasant to work with. here's where things start to get a little complicated. These feet are not as straightforward. I mean, nothing in this kit is very straightforward, but it hasn't been complicated. It's been surprisingly uncomplicated and very satisfying. But this next part here, got to do a lot of flexing to get everything into the right place, it looks like. But I think we can manage. Together, I'm fairly certain we got this. All right. Looks like the secret to it is to flex the foot all the way pointing down as if going up on tiptoes. And then attach this piece that we're cutting out now. And then bring it back together, because this is what is clearly going to hold it all together. See how it's supposed to go now. Oof. There, pretty sure we got that correct. It looks good on that one. Let's go get it on the other one. All right, I think we got the feet. That was interesting. guess if I had to have anyone complain against this kit, it's that it feels like while they took some chances with the engineering on it and came up winners on almost all of it, some of the parts still feel a bit like I feel like I'm going to break it easily. So it's one of those situations where, like, I enjoy the build so far, but man, I'm afraid I'm just going to bend this thing in the wrong way and it is going to completely fall apart on me. I mean, I'm not completely done with the build yet, so I can't say for certain. But we'll see where things end up. On the plus side, I haven't seen any reports of anybody being upset over things falling apart on them, so I suppose that's kind of a plus. So this is where we start getting into the upper thighs, and one of the things I'm already noticing is that there's a joint that allows it to bend up and forward, which I'd seen demonstrated in a few videos, but how the actual engineering of it is achieved was not something that was immediately visible at the time, but now that I'm seeing it, it is quite elegant. I'll show it off in just a second as I finish with the panel lining of this back of the leg here. Like that little lot, but let's get this in real quick. So that's what I mean. So near as I can tell, this is the front. The D piece fell out. This is the front of the leg, and it can actually bend it forward at that upper thigh, which is not a motion that any normal human body can take, but this is a robot, so it doesn't matter. Trying to keep that that knee joint there from falling out. All right. I don't know if anybody's ever going to see that detail around that hinge there, but we'll go ahead and panel line it anyways. And this is where I have to be careful. I was cleaning up that snub mark on this curved surface here. I don't want to end up cutting the plastic too much. Just want to smooth it out. And I think that's mission accomplished there. Now for the other side. so this is clearly going to be the lower leg. I'm pretty sure what I just put on there is going to connect into the foot. But how it all comes together remains to be seen. I mean, it doesn't really, it's right here. But the actual putting it together remains to be done. Aha. There we go. More runner connections on curved surfaces. Yay for that. Way to go. Thank you. Because, you know, nobody likes undergating, right? That's the bane of all Gunplas, undergating. Ooh, that is smooth. And again, this is this interesting sort of, like, not just straight across connection. It's more this kind of angled connection that we're seeing. And I think we're going to get some of that here, so it's kind of like how the forearms went together, right? Like where you've got this sort of weird kind of turny joint there in the forearm. Doesn't really act like a forearm joint. It's an interesting joint. I'm still on the fence about whether or not it'll actually be useful for greater articulation, as opposed to just a simple rotation there at the lower arm. But I guess we'll find out here in a bit once I get everything put together. I'm going to say it again, and I've said it several times already. This plastic, despite being slightly green, is just fantastic to work with. I don't think I've worked with a model kit in a long time that has been this just phenomenal when it comes to the actual, like, quality of the plastic. Then again, the last couple months, I've mostly just been trying to blow through all of my high grade backlog before I get into doing perfect grades and real grades and master grades and all of that. But that's okay. I'm almost done with that. Alright, so here we go. See, this connection here is actually goes in like that, which gives it this little rotation at the shin, which is not where you would actually expect rotation to be. I do like that the knee joint is actually at the back of the knee. Gives you that amount of bend. Like, that is crazy bend right there. That is just phenomenal amount of bend. And then we've got this, again, this is that shin wiggle, that shin rotation that I was just talking about. it's interesting, but I'm not sure if it's gonna. It depends on how it looks. I mean, if it ends up looking fairly natural, then okay, cool. I mean, I say natural, but this is clearly just it's a fictional giant robot. So, natural is a subjective term, but these things are supposed to, you know, they're just supposed to be big people at the end of the day, is really what it comes down to. So, we'll just have to see how it turns out. So you guys can't hear it, but I'm listening to music while I do these builds, as I always do. And it occurs to me that one of the coolest superpowers in the world is being the lead singer of a rock band. Because it seems to me that really all you have to do at any point in time is just scream the word guitar as loud as possible, and suddenly you will be summoning a sick guitar solo, no matter what else is happening. And there we have it, one leg built. Let's go ahead and attach the foot there. I don't think that's all the way. Is that all the way in? I guess that's all the way in. There we go. One leg done. And I didn't talk about it at the time, but I did give him this expressive finger spread left hand. I don't think I want to have him holding a beam saber. I think I'm just going to have him with the shield up and the beam rifle in the right hand, doing a sort of defensive crouch side shoot. That doesn't make any sense. I will readily admit that what I just said seems to mean absolutely nothing, but I think it will eventually, once I get to that point. It's also nice when you're listening to music and one of your favorite songs just starts playing. Like right now, I'm listening to my Spotify playlist. It's basically just all of the artists that I follow on Spotify, and I need to update that and add more. It's, you know, a fairly small amount of artists at the moment, but it's, you know, their entire catalogs for the artists that I do follow. And the one I'm listening to right now is good old Daft Punk's Steam Machine. Probably one of my favorite songs of all time. I'm not a techno guy. I don't listen to a lot of techno, trance, house, whatever you want to call it. But this particular song is, I don't know, I like it. I know Daft Punk got quite a bit of flack about this album in general. People saying it was, I don't know if it was lazy or what the claim was, especially coming off of the, you know, phenomenon that was Discovery, that people just were not happy with Human After All. But I like it. I think that was kind of the point of the whole thing, and it may be one of those situations where people just got so wrapped up in what they wanted that they didn't stop to appreciate something for what it was. Which is something that happens a lot. People just need to stop trying to judge things for what they want them to be and start paying attention to what the thing they are experiencing is. I mean, the flip side of that, though, is if you've been told by whoever it is that's making the thing that it's going to be a thing, and you expect that thing that they are telling you it is going to be, and it ends up not being that thing, then I do also feel that there is a, people have a valid right to be upset about that. Prime example is a little game called Aliens Colonial Marines. So, I mean, there's a difference between people expecting something on their own and straight up false advertising. another lower leg, weird shin joint. So I'm going to have to read through the little booklet that came with this that I was showing off at the beginning of the stream. I'm fairly certain the goal of this was to just create a super articulated model kit, not try and replicate any actual, like, this is what a robot would work like, which I think is probably one of the, I don't want to say downfalls, but it's definitely something that affects a lot of the design of some of these model kits, where occasionally they tried too hard to make it be, well, if this were a real, if this were a real Gundam, what would it move like? What would it look like? And I think that's kind of an incorrect way to go about it. Simply because there's no reason that it needs to be that way. I think there are definitely some kits that can make some sacrifices in the name of just being really fun kits. At the same time, there are things like, perfect grades and real grades that are definitely geared more towards the mechanical aspects of it and having the inner frame and things like that. But I think more of these style kits where you take a classic design and you say, what if we just made it be a really cool little model kit and not a, needing to be a super slavish recreation of the original design, or, some interpretation on the actual robot design, and just make a interpretation on the model kit design. Like, design it just to be a model. Like, that's what they did with this, and oh man, it's pretty awesome so far. There are a couple things I wish they'd have done differently, but I'm not going to complain about them. I mean, overall, this kit has been super fun to build. It's definitely been unique when it comes to how the joints work and everything. So I wonder if we'll end up seeing more of this style of design in any kits going forward. So far, I haven't seen that materialize. The upcoming kits that are coming out seem to be pretty standard when it comes to design and engineering. But, could happen. Could be that this one was made and then they wanted to see how it would work out and if people would enjoy it and go forward from there. I mean, if they released it and it just didn't work and nobody liked it, then, you probably want to avoid putting any more eggs into that basket. But, I mean, long term, I think this will go down as being one of the better kits, just from a kit design perspective. But yeah, I mean, looking at what's coming up, they got the high grade Plutone, I guess, Pluto 1, whatever it is, the 00 kit from the prequel manga or whatever. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I like Gundam 00, but man, that thing just does not appeal to me. Maybe it's because it looks too much like the Exia, and like I said, I'm not a huge fan of just that sort of basic design. But then we got the high grade Infinite Justice coming out, which is clearly not using any of these design beats in it. It's more of a classic style. So yeah, I'm guessing this will probably just be a one-off. Be nice if it wasn't, though. Be really cool to see more of the mobile suits sort of redone in this kind of style. Maybe get a G40 Industrial version Chars Zaku. How cool would that be? Red Comet having a super articulated machine. It totally fits with the aesthetic of the character, so I don't see why not. Anyways, let's get into building us a crotch. Alright, how do these connect? Let's see. So if I've got that like that, I see how that works. Huh. That is like triple jointed crotch. There's what that is. And those go in there. Alrighty. Side skirting time. that's an interesting choice, is to put these side skirts here in a way that they don't really move. Everything else in this kit is super articulated, so I was sort of expecting these to follow along those same lines where they would be able to move, but apparently not. Though I guess they don't really... I mean, they're going to restrict that side to side, like, out motion a little bit, but that's when you can drop that down like that and get that motion if you want to. If you really want it, you know, opens up even more, so... Like, I get it. It just seems like an interesting choice to not have them articulated at all. Ah, well. Alrighty, and then there's that sticker that I was talking about, or that piece that is going to have a sticker on it, and it will have a sticker on it in just a moment. Let's go ahead and put it in place before we put the sticker on. That'll help guide how the sticker should actually go on. So we'll go right there on top of that little red bit. that brown marker gets everywhere. And we're almost done with the mobile suit itself. We just have to put together a couple of weapons. And this kit does come with very, very basic weapons. It's just the beam rifle, the beam sabers, and the shield. Put that on the wrong way. Now that's an interesting concept. As you might be able to see there, you can actually put this plate on at different heights, or two different heights, based on, I guess, personal preference. I don't know. But it's nice that you can adjust it. I guess if you're not getting the type of motion you want out of the kit. And there we go. That is the RX-78 G40 Industrial version design. I'll move it over here so that you can see it in this camera. Get a little bit of better zoom on it, or focus, I should say. Yep, that's it. You can see where I was talking about, where it kind of looks roundish up here in the upper body, as opposed to, you know, your more typical squared off, hard edged sort of Gundam designs. But honestly, overall, I think it looks pretty cool. I'm definitely not against it. I think it's a really neat design. The only thing I would say that I would like to see more of in this thing is maybe a little bit more surface detailing, so you can get a, you know, better idea for what the panels and all would look like. But again, this is not supposed to be a accurate representation of a like real life robot. It's supposed to be a model kit of a model kit, which is pretty cool that you know, they got what they did out of it. The design is pretty neat. So, yeah, overall, pretty happy with it. So, I know my internet is kind of blipping up and down a little bit over there for the stream. I'm going to have to see about getting it hardwired up here. This is streaming over Wi-Fi is beyond unideal. So let's start working on some weapons here. Go ahead and get the beam rifle assembled here. So that goes in there. Even the articulation on the weapon is pretty awesome. Let me make sure I got this right. Yep, that should be correct. Now, here's the question. Because occasionally you'll get a kit where the barrel of the rifle is the same diameter as the... that down a little bit. That actually use the beam saber effect in the rifle. Still a bit too big. Huh. Just took a little bit of modification. It's not a perfect fit, but I think it'll work. Considering as how I was not planning on using the beam sabers anyways, I think it'll be perfectly fine. Okay, maybe the internet is going to stabilize a little bit here. Maybe it'll stick with me long enough I can actually finish this up. So, here is hoping. All I gotta do is get the shield together anyways. That's not that big of a deal. let's see about getting this shield together. Alright, so it says we push that through there. Push it over to the side. Almost done with this shield. And one of those did not fill in fully, so we'll have to do that one again. And just sort of lightly wipe that away so that it looks filled in. There we go. have the shield, as far as I'm aware. Ah. Well, he's definitely posable. Question is, can I get a pose out of him? I won't. I don't think so. That shoulder's not going to drop in quite the way that I wanted to for the pose I had in mind. Oof, his waist is real loose once you start getting it all. There, like that pose. And I know you guys can't see it real well, so I'll turn him in just a second here. Hopefully he won't fall down, because I think that's the pose I'm gonna keep him in. That hand is real wobbly, I guess, is kind of a problem I'm having with this. So yeah, I like that pose. Nice dynamic, defensive shooting pose kind of going on. So, yeah, there you go. That's the G40 Industrial version. It is actually a joy to put together. I really, really, really like it. Let's go old school and have one of his handles sticking up there. But yeah, this is a fantastic build. It is super articulated. I do have some concerns about how stiff he would be when holding a pose. His waist and torso joints through this area are really, really loose feeling. That wrist is not wanting to stay in a fixed pose if it gets knocked even a little bit, so I might have to work with that. But overall, it's a fantastic kit. And just so I'm clear, the problem I have is at the actual pivot part of the wrist, not the ball joint. The ball joint seems fine. It's more that that extra little bendy part there in that C connector there. So I don't know if I just have one that's a little bit too loose. I could try and pull one out of the box and see if he's got a better one. But anyways, there you go. G40 Industrial Design version RX-78-2 Granddaddy Gundam. Thank you very much for watching, and I think that's where I'll end it. So y'all have a good day.